What's good, everybody? It's your boy Nate Dizzy, and in today's video I wanted to make a companion video for the Onward settings guide for Oculus users. So there's a few things you need to know as an Oculus user that will help you to have the smoothest experience possible in Onward, and so I wanted to quickly go over that. First, I'm gonna run through very quickly how to do it if you just want to know that. That way, you know, for people who just want to see that, they'll see that, and then I'll explain a little bit more about the individual things after that in case you want to know that. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Step 0.5, so before you get into anything, is to have everything closed on your desktop. Make sure Oculus isn't open and make sure Steam isn't open. Those are two particular things you want to worry about. So once you do that, we can go ahead and start, and you're going to open Oculus. And you're going to go ahead and connect your device. You can see mine's already connected. It's okay if yours was already connected, if you leave it connected, but I would advise that you disconnect it when you're not using it. First off, it'll save you controller battery time, and for two, it'll save you some issues that you can have from leaving it connected all the time. Also, it won't randomly start up, it'll last longer, etc. So once you have Oculus open and connected, you can go ahead and minimize it, and we're going to jump over to a file explorer. We're going to navigate to C, Program Files. Now, I want to go ahead and quickly note that if you installed the Oculus software to a drive other than C, that's where this folder is going to be. So if, say, you have an extra hard drive and you didn't have room on your main boot drive, and you put it in, say, this, you know, for me it's X, this other volume, that's where it'll be. But for most users, it'll be under C, Program Files. We're going to navigate to Oculus, then Support, and then Diagnostics. Now there's two things in this folder that are useful, that is Mirror and Debug, but for today we're going to be worried about Debug. If you want a video about how to record your VR game play or VR experiences, then go ahead and leave me a comment down below letting me know that I should make that video. But like I said, for today we'll need Debug Tool, and I would go ahead and make yourself a shortcut on the desktop for this, because you may need to use this often depending on what games you play. If you're switching games a lot, you may need to change settings. So in order to send it to the desktop, all you're going to do is right-click Oculus Debug Tool. Make sure that you do the Debug Tool and not the Debug Tool CLI. It's the one with the Oculus logo there. But right-click, go down to Send to Desktop, and that will create a shortcut on your desktop, and you can exit out of that window. Now, again, we still have Oculus open. We're going to go ahead and open up Debug, and that opens a menu like this. You may not know about this, but this is highly useful. I wish that they were a little bit more clear about using this. And I wish there was a way to get to it from the Oculus Home, but you know, that's another story. Anyway, the one thing we're worried about here in regards to Onward is turning off asynchronous space warp. Now, some games are going to work well with this, particularly newer games will work just fine, but Onward, for example, was made before I think that there was so much updates to this, and I don't even think asynchronous space warp was out when Onward first came out, so it's just not set up to work with it. Asynchronous space warp causes a lot of glitches and problems with gameplay, so definitely avoid it if possible. So what we're going to do here, as far as Onward goes, is we're going to disable it. So we're disabling asynchronous space warp. Now we're going to go ahead and minimize. You can exit out at this point, but I'm just going to go ahead and minimize so that I can talk about it later. We're going to open Steam, and then we're going to open Steam VR. Just wait 1 minute. Now, once Steam VR is open, we'll click the three bars to go to the settings. So click the three bars there, go to settings. And this is how you change the options as a Steam user. For anyone with Vive and stuff like that, they will know that. But for an Oculus user, you may not know. Now we'll go ahead and navigate to the video tab, and we'll hit per application video settings. Now we're going to navigate to Onward, and this is where you can do a couple of things. Most importantly is to disable the modern reprojection mode. So this is what it's going to look like by default. You're going to go ahead and hit use legacy reprojection. I think because this game was made when legacy reprojection was the current reprojection mode. It just works best that way for some reason, especially as an Oculus user. So go ahead and hit on for that. And this is where you can change your resolution. Now this is going to be based on your hardware. For me, I get to about 170% for competitive settings and about 200% if I don't mind a hitch here and there. But if it's any kind of like, if I'm playing against bots, 200% works perfectly fine. So for me, it's 170. Now I'll go ahead and let you know what my hardware is. That is an RTX 2070 Super with a Ryzen 2700X. If your hardware is around that level, then you can probably get somewhere around where I am. If it's higher, you'll get better. If it's, lower, you'll get a little lower. But if your game was running fairly smoothly with the asynchronous space warp on, then you will most likely be able to get at least 125%. This is what's going to make the game look better. It's going to sharpen the image. You're going to be able to see further distances. You're going to be able to see people in windows better. And it's just all around, like I said, going to make the game look better. So that's all in terms of what you need to do. Once you do that, you can close and feel free to open the game up and test out your settings. What I would do is, again, go into the game and go into a bot match and test how smooth it is. If you want to test the super sampling, you can go to settings, developer, and then show GPU performance graph in the headset set to on, and that will let you know how much room you have, right, before you're going to start losing performance as far as once you've super sampled. So once you've super sampled, you want to enable this GPU performance graph, test it, come back, reset, test it again, etc. until you find out what is the best for you. Whatever works with bots, about 5 to 10% lower will work in a competitive scenario. So anyway, that's it. For people that are still here, I want to go over a couple of things a little bit more in depth, just to, give you a little bit more info. So the first thing is, in regards to debug. So Onward works better with the Steam settings. You don't want asynchronous space warp. You don't want to super sample using Oculus for this particular game. But if you're say playing Pavlov and say you're playing on the Oculus version, which works perfectly fine. Most games work good with the Oculus version because they're if they have an Oculus version, usually that it was made to work that way. Onward's not one of those games. But if you're playing a game that's Onward or that's Oculus only, then this is how you're going to change the super sampling. All you're going to do is change the 0 to either higher than a 1 or lower than a 1. A decimal point number will be that percentage of pixels. So a 1 or a 0 is default. Anything lower than 1, so like a 0.9 for example, that's 90% sampling. So that's going to take 10% off. So if your computer's having trouble running a game and you don't mind losing some graphical fidelity, you could lower it. Any number higher than a 1 is going to increase the sampling. So say a 1.2 is 120% super sampling. Just wanted to mention that. One other thing is you may have to open this. Each time you actually fully restart your computer, you may want to check Debug Tool because these settings don't always save. It's really weird. Sometimes they seem to save, sometimes they don't. You may be able to look it up and find a way to get it to save every time or run some kind of script that would like automatically change it every time. But for me, it's not that big of a deal. It's why I had you make the shortcut on the desktop. That way you didn't have to continuously go back and redo that. None of these other things are very useful except for the HUD. So this, where it says visible HUD right here, you can use this to get a performance HUD, which will let you know how much headroom you have. It'll give you a rough idea of how much you can increase the super sampling, which, again, super sampling is increasing the pixels per square inch. basically making an image sharper. So that's about it with the debug menu. Most games with Steam will work just fine with the newer reprojection mode, which is the default. But if you're having some weird kind of glitchy issues, I would use Legacy. Especially on older games, it will work better because they were designed then, and they have, you know, small development teams. They don't have time to be updating for that kind of stuff. So that's about it, I think. So if you enjoyed this video, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you have nipples, leave a comment, and yeah, I'll answer them down there. And yeah, if this helped you, hit the like button and subscribe for future VR content. Yeah, hope you're having a good one. Nate Dizzy.